All right, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy December. It's finally here, the last month of the year, and it's another Q&A with Alan and Marshall show. Alan had a family emergency this morning, so our good friend Richard's sitting in for them, and really appreciate him. And today we've got the two newest Academy members, Dr. Ray Work and Mark Suhadolnik here. And we're going to be chatting with them about a whole bunch of stuff. So how's everybody doing today?
Great.
Fantastic. Got my computer working. I'm good.
Yeah.
That was the technical difficulty on my side.
Yeah. And so we're all over the country today. So I'm in Arizona. Richard, where are you from?
I'm in the Detroit area, Wyandotte, Michigan, on the river.
What about you, Dr. Work?
I'm in Lakewood Ranch, Florida.
And I'm in Dallas, Texas.
There you go. We're one big American circle right here. So anyway, so thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you watching. Right now, we would love it if you would just sign in and say hello. Let us know where you're watching us from. And then also, if you could do us a big favor and share that you're watching. We really get a lot of viewers when people share, and we appreciate that. So we would love that to happen. So we want to say hello to some folks. So Cindy's watching from Texas. Good to see you again, Cindy. And of course, Charles is here from New Mexico. Ghost is here from Uppsala, Sweden. So good to see you today. Happy that you guys are here. And so why don't we kick things off with just talking about you guys a little bit. So Dr. Work, why don't you introduce yourself and your career and your background a little bit, and we'll get into everything with you in a little bit, just the kind of the basics for you right now.
Okay. Yes, I'm a PhD chemist by training. That was graduated 51 years ago, and worked for DuPont for 28 years. I started the inkjet ink business for them in 1987 with coming up with the first pigment black ink for desktop printers that are in all Hewlett-Packard printers. And then I retired from DuPont in 2001. I have been consulting for the last 22 years or 21 years as an independent consultant, but as a retained consultant for S1 Holdings, which includes LexJet and the brand management group, and they offer inkjet media inks and printers and software and everything else. And they're here in Sarasota, near where I live. So I consult. I'm basically their technical person because they're a sales company. And I also then have an LLC which develops new products, principally based on a proprietary removable acrylic adhesive, which does not change adhesion over time. So, and it can be, the products that it's coated on can be removed, repositioned, and left for years without any residual problem or falling off. So it's unique adhesive material. And it's available in Hewlett-Packard fabric products called removable fabrics, Hewlett-Packard brand, as well as LexJet brand. So,
well, great.
That's pretty much what I do.
Right, and I think it's fascinating that you helped invent the black toner that everybody uses in their inkjet printers.
The ink. Yeah,
that's just amazing.
Well,
black ink. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I started the business. I have a couple of patents in that area, but most of it was other people at DuPont. A team I put together, working closely with Hewlett-Packard. That took 5 years to get to market. And so the first product was in '93, and then they converted all their desktop to pigment black after that. And so DuPont sales hit 100 million just in inked HP by 99.
So how many on that product alone? How many dollars of sales do you think that is?
Well, at what point in the value? I mean, from DuPont's perspective, since I started the business and the first product was sold in 93, they've sold $3 billion worth of ink. Now they are now a very big player in textiles. And they just announced they're doubling their pigmenting capacity for dispersions and inks in Fort Madison, Iowa, where the manufacturing is done. It used to be an auto paint plant, and it's now an inkjet plant. And they have been very successful working with the high throughput textile inkjet printing companies to provide pigment solutions for printing textiles.
So that's printing fabrics, rolls of fabric?
Yes.
Great.
Also, they're big in T-shirts too because they have a good white ink. So they've been big in the T-shirt printers, but the real growth is the replacement of rotary screen with inkjet. That's coming very fast.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And so, Mark, thank you, Dr. Work. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself also?
Well, I'm not a doctor. We'll start with that. But I'm Mark Suhadolnik. I work with Graphic Solutions Group, GSG, as our textile application specialist. I've been pulling a squeegee, printing ink, printing T-shirts for 47 years now. So 90% of my entire life has been on a screen printing press.
Mm-hmm.
And right, go ahead.
And what do you do for GSG now?
Well, what I do with them is I teach all of our classes. I do basics classes. I do, automated printing classes. I do consulting, going into shops, helping them with efficiencies in production. I do all of our research and development. I test all the new inks, all the new products related to the screen print side that we carry. And, I tell people I don't really work a day in my life. I love what I do. It's a lot of fun. It's a great company to work for. And I basically just have, a big playroom in my applications lab, the latest equipment, all the new inks, whatever I need, I get my hands on it first.
Great. So that's fantastic. So I want to share real quick. Yesterday, let me tee this up. We had a fantastic workshop. If you missed it, I'll give you the link here. But so yesterday, Mark and I did a workshop for Shirt Lab, and I know some of you guys that are on the call were participated with it. But if you missed it, it's on my YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube/Marshall Atkinson and you'll see it. But it's a how to match Pantone colors with screen printing. And it's a little over an hour long. And Mark walked everyone through about how to mix ink, how to help match colors, how to control things, how to use a color spectrometer. We talked about that a little bit. We didn't get deep dive into a lot of stuff. It's really just an overview kind of a thing. But it was a really great workshop. And I know we've had some fantastic responses from it. And Mark, you've heard from some folks. What have people been saying?
They really loved it. They got a lot out of it. Things they didn't know, when we went over the different tools, everything from spatulas to scales. And, it was funny. A couple of customers that I work with, they thanked me repeatedly for saying, put lids on your buckets.
Yeah.
That was a big takeaway.
That's a big thing with me too. So cleanliness. But anyway, so if you missed it, it's available. And of course we'd love for you to join Shirt Lab Tribe. But you don't have to be a member to watch this particular video. It's just on my YouTube channel. I've also posted it in various places on social media. And also I want to just mention that next week on December the 7th, we've got our good friend and fellow Academy member, Mark Coudray, doing a workshop on the financial end of the business. So this is really about understanding your P&L statements and really looking at the financial foundation of your business. And if you know Mark, you know it's going to be so laden with usable information and concepts that you really need this. It's $97, but if you're a member of Shirt Lab Tribe, it's free. So this is a bonus for Shirt Lab Tribe members. So you can sign up at eventbrite.com, Shirt Lab Workshop, Managing by the Numbers. Just look that up and you'll see it. It's next Wednesday on December the 7th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So we'd love to see everybody take advantage of that. I know it's going to be great. All right, so let's go back here. We've got some folks saying hello, so let's get to that, and then we'll get into some great discussions. So Josh is here from Oklahoma. Good to see you. Cora's here from Wisconsin. Cindy says, glad to have a great group of guests. Thanks, Cindy. Brian says, good morning. Couple more people and look like the Brady Bunch. Yes, I think it is the Brady Bunch. Sean's here from Alpharetta, Georgia. Good to see you. Sarah's here from Kansas. Dave is here from Wisconsin, if I remember right. Chris is here from Saskatchewan, Canada. Ray's here. Good to see you, Ray. Scott's here. Good afternoon from South Florida. Good to see you, Scott. And Cal's here from California. So good to see you guys. Appreciate you watching. So let's get into some topics. So the first thing we want to do is we want to talk to Dr. Work about inkjet stuff. And I know Richard's got some questions. So if you guys that are watching have some questions about where the industry is going or particular applications or concerns you might have, I think he might be the guy to talk to. So Richard, you said you had some questions. You couldn't wait to talk to him. So let's give you the floor. So take it away.
So when I worked at Ulano, starting in 2005, the very first project we had is introducing inkjet film. So I really needed to be deeply involved in the inkjet for making screen printing positives. And I remember I did experiments using 100% CMYK to try and get something that was ultraviolet opaque, which is different from just regular white light opaque. And I found that the three colors, magenta, cyan, and yellow, didn't really have any UV stopping power at all. And only the black, and of course, pigment black stopped it the best.
Yep.
So immediately what I did is I asked the Ulano lab people, Mohammed Akhtar and Yulia Finkel, where are we getting our dye for masking film? And every one of those people sort of looked at me when they would come in on a regular basis because we were buying, drums of it, so to speak. And what I did is I spoke to, I'm forgetting who it was that I knew, but I called some friends of mine at Sunjet, part of Sun Chemical in the UK. And 5 days later, I got a liter of red inkjet ink. And I got 3.9 UV density out of that ink. And my beloved masters, the corporate masters, who I love dearly, they didn't feel like going into the inkjet business, inkjet cartridge business, which I thought was going to be a destiny, especially with Ulano's worldwide distribution. And so I know it worked. I know some people came out with some other UV opaque blacks, but what do you think we could still do to come up with not necessarily an all black, but to tie that together with the fact that lovely people like HP's, I have 2 HP printers upstairs, one that I just bought, and they can't use remanufactured cartridges, the new E series from HP. And that's been a long time going with the Epson printers that I used for so long. So I'm interested in what DuPont or what your relationship with your group could do to come up with something that's UV opaque, and if it's red and transparent to white light, you could see through it.
Well, there's a company called Proof Positive in Colorado, and the owner is Richard Aram, A-R-A-M. And he sells ink for that specific purpose. That's his business. I've known him for 30 years. I don't know what the density of his ink set is, but that's his business. That's one of his main businesses, is to develop and sell the inkjet printed transparencies for screen printing negatives or positives. And I would talk to him and get some samples and see what you think. But that's where I'd go. Richard Aram.
Okay.
What was funny is all three of us were writing that down.
Good. Well, he'll appreciate the phone calls. Yeah, he's a great guy. Great guy. He used to be with Mile High Engineering way back in the early days of wide format inkjet, and then was with Spectre Corp, which packages aftermarket cartridge products for a multitude of people who sell aftermarket solutions. But Richard's on his own now and has his own business, and the Proof Positive company does exactly what you're asking for. So.
Well, that's great. So that's a very interesting concept, Richard. How come Ulana didn't want to do that? Just didn't want to, it was a business risk. They didn't see the future.
It was going to be expensive. If I'd had any real money, I would have definitely tried to create a side hustle like that. But it required about $10,000 to $20,000 to really do enough cartridges to make it worthwhile.
Well, what year was this?
This is 2005.
2005. Okay, so we already had the pigment blackout for 10 years by then. And so DuPont's dispersions were unique and really the only functional ones for thermal inkjet for an HP printer. And until, we had, I think DuPont had about a 10-year advantage over everybody else because of the inherent technology DuPont has. The living polymers that they use for dispersants are unique and patented, and they have the only manufacturing. So they pretty well had that locked up. That's why the Hewlett-Packard business was so successful. The other guys, Canon, Epson, those guys, they had no shot at it because nobody could make those inks. In fact, HP didn't think it could be done, but DuPont did it, and with them in very close cooperation. It took 5 years, but we got cartridges that would hold up in the box and all over the world, hot, cold, whatever, and didn't fail. That was a challenge for water-based pigment dispersion, believe me. And so Ulana is fine in screen printing inks and things, but this is a whole different animal. Inkjet inks are a completely different animal.
The whole idea was a marketing scheme on my part, because ruby lith is what the entire world calls masking film. And so a ruby ink, not magenta, not red,
right?
White. So I thought it would sell itself.
It probably could. It's probably right now nobody knows what ruby lith is.
That was 20 years ago. So
yes.
Let's take a poll. You guys watching, do you know what ruby lith is? Say yes or no.
I've got some over here in the hallway.
By the way, Ray Greenwood's here. He says, greetings, Screenlings. And he says there's a lot to this: particle material, grind size, and particle shape. all affect compressibility, mixability, shear, and jetability. And by the way, I'm wrong. Sean says yes. Davis says no. Charles says GSG still sells ruby.
Yep.
John says yep. Hurley says yes. Corey says I still have ruby and amber. Sarah says no, right? So it's kind of mixed.
Cora, you'll be happy to know that I am the person that killed Amberlith.
And Ray says yes.
We were
I still
selling
have
so little because it was only going to screen. So it was better for screen printers, but it just didn't sell enough worldwide. We're running it maybe every year and a half, every 18 months. It just wasn't worth enough.
Right. Well, that's great. Well, thanks for answering our little mini poll. Appreciate that, guys.
Again, the key to this was the idea that people could either remanufacture it or be able to print with a transparent color so you could see through it and still register, etc. So
Yep.
That's very interesting. So, and the pigment black is what everybody uses now, I guess, for the when we print our film. Is that correct?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what you want because it absorbs everything, but it has to be pretty high density. And usually the screens, the resolution required for screens is low, so you can load it up and put a lot of ink down. But they've got software for that and all. So it's an ongoing thing.
Well, that was a key to the film, is that you had to be able to load up quite a bit. And I had a visual aid, which is a glass of marbles, and the marbles represented the thickness of the inkjet film. And if you filled up enough, which is the reason we used Epsons, and we're favorite Epsons, because the piezo head, we could hot rod it with a RIP, not necessarily a raster image processor, but we could say, no, I want more picoliters of ink to go into the film until it was opaque.
Yep.
The great thing about the masking film, again, the stuff we got from Sunjet, part of this, but literally they must have had it in a jar somewhere, because it must have taken 3 days to get air freighted to me in New York. So
Well,
it was super thin. It really, you didn't have to build it up with physical thickness of the black pigments. It was a dye that worked.
Right, that absorbed UV. The Epsons are piezo, so it's much more forgiving when it comes to ink design. Thermal inkjet's most difficult. And for pigment printing, I mean, Epson couldn't do it for many, many years. But HP, we did the hardest one first, which is thermal inkjet's the hardest for an ink design. But that was desktop. I mean, piezo hadn't done anything back in the 80s. So they plugged all the time, which they still do if you're not careful. But the thermal inkjet was the winner, and HP was the winner for sure.
Dr. Werk, could you describe the difference between piezo and the thermal inkjet heads?
Sure. The piezo has a very small piezo crystal they pass current through, which bends. The bending creates a wave that ejects the droplet. It's very low energy, and it moves the piezo crystal like the bottom. I use the oil can, the bottom of the oil can. You push on the bottom of an oil can, and it squirts out a drop of oil. That's the way it works. And with thermal inkjet, there's a resistor, currents pass through. It forms a bubble, a steam bubble, very instantaneously, and then it collapses. That causes the ejection of a droplet. Capillary action refills the chamber, and it can fire again. And that's really been refined. Both of those have been refined to an incredible degree at this point. But the MIMJet, the new MIMJet heads, those are thermal now. and Epson's piezo, Canon's thermal inkjet, and HP's thermal inkjet. But they also have other technologies too. So depending on the printers, there's so many printers now and so many applications now. It's staggering. I mean, I can't even get my head around a lot of what's going on. I'm printing electronics. Now corrugated is a big move, and textile roll to roll is a big move now. Converting from screen printing or rotary screen or flexo or whatever offset, converting to digital is the flexibility of, every image can be different if you want it to be.
So we've got two interesting comments. One is you lost 50% of the people talking about an oil can. And then Ray says the oil can is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Piezo is also used for tweeter drivers and speakers, same effect.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
So
That's the oil.
that's kind of exactly two comments representing two different people watching. So
So I know this is not, the green screen doesn't help here. This is not the oil can that Dr. Work was talking about. This is a pump one. But imagine that you'd press the bottom and it would squirt out of a big point.
Yeah. Just happen to have one.
Ray, hey Ray, Richard's got everything in his office. If you like, hey, show me like you just any random thing. Show me a hockey puck. He's got one right there next to his desk, I'm sure.
Oh my!
There you go. Look, hockey puck.
The green screen's doing me in today.
I'm cheating because I knew he had that.
You knew I had that, yeah. It's a hockey puck that fits inside my roll of tape, which has been a demonstration I've been doing for 40 years.
Yeah.
Ink, that screen printing stuff.
That's screen print.
Right. So here's a question. Do you think emulsion will need a big change with the laser technology coming to market? Thank you, Lance. Who wants to take that? I don't know enough about the laser imaging.
I think Richard just went to go find some right now.
He's got a laser.
He's got the laser.
So here you go. Sean says Richard is the carrot top of the screen printing industry. Right.
But to briefly add a little answer to that, working with like Kiwo and Ulano, yes, they are working on more specific emulsions geared towards the laser units. And we'll have our laser in right after Long Beach, so we'll be testing a lot of the new ones that are out.
Did you get the Kiwo one or the Saudi one?
The Kiwo.
Are these LED lasers?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not familiar with what I know that's what we use in inkjet for curing inks, not for emulsions, but yeah.
Right.
They made a lot of progress on this.
So great discussion. So I got a comment. Hurley says, can still hear the click of the oil can when you press the button.
Yep.
So Ray says, yes, emulsions need to change depending on the laser resolution and spectrum color. Kiwo has specific emulsions that can work with very high resolutions.
Yeah.
Which are off menu, let me add. If you talk to your average salesperson or even your average person at Kiwo Ulano, they're not going to pitch those to you. It's you need to know. You need to go behind the bookshelf.
Right. Okay, cool.
I've never taken so many notes during one of these shows.
All right. Well, hey, let's share the Go GSG right quick. So, Mark, this is your company, GSG, and our sponsors. So, thank you so much for GSG for sponsoring our show. And so, let's show the pulse right now. And Mark, you wanted to talk about the TechMart stuff, so take it away.
Yeah, we've had a lot of requests, throughout the country at our different locations to bring on the Techmar line. So that's new to GSG. We brought it on a few months back, and we have their cleaning fluids, we have their water-based adhesive, scorch remover. These are just the items in the Pulse, and the solvent for the vinyl remover. But their the TB10, the water-based adhesive, is a fantastic adhesive. And, one of those things, customers asked for it, so we decided to bring it on. It's been working very well for us.
And this is the product that you use some food coloring to tint so you can tell where it is.
Correct. Yes.
And what do you fond of, blue or green, or what's your favorite food coloring tint color?
I've been going with blue and purple lately, just because honestly, that's what was in the pantry at home. So that's where I went with.
It's just a drop or two. It's not like
Oh yeah, it's only like 2 drops into a gallon.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, that's good. And so you can you can find this at gogsg.com. Where's my little button here? Gogsg.com, and you can order this stuff. And have any questions? I'm sure Mark or anybody at GSG can help you with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go back to us. So that's our little commercial. So thanks. And so now let's shift away from Dr. Work to you, Mark, right? So Screenprint Master. So let's take some questions and drive some stuff to you. So
Sure.
where do you feel the industry's going, or where the biggest challenges are right now for most shops out there?
The challenges that we're seeing now are a lot of shops that are starting to say not completely convert to water-based, but adding water-based into their production. Just the learning curve of it. Of course, making really good screens, ones that are going to hold up. Their cure, their dryer times. We're seeing a lot of that. We have just a tremendous amount of customers who want to go that route. And it's not driven by, a green movement or anything like that per se. It's driven by customer and brand demand, wanting that softer print. So we're working a lot with customers on water-based, and to add to water-based, a tremendous amount of hybrid. The amount of digital squeegees that we sell I'm really surprised that the amount of shops putting it in, taking that leap, spending the money, but the results are fantastic. And that technology just keeps changing, and, it's moving forward. The advent of, M&R coming out with the Polaris, the true, all digital machine. When you look at the price point, you might think, wow, who's going to spend that money? We've sold quite a few of them. And there's currently, 5 or 6 right here in Texas, in the Dallas area. It's really impressive technology.
Yeah. And I was on the phone earlier this morning with Michelle Ruby, and talking about, or Moxley, before she got married, and talking about how AI with the art is going to be filtering in with digital printing and stuff. So it was a fascinating conversation. And I think that a lot of stuff is moving to digital, and especially with bigger VC-backed companies with website stuff, and it's just the craziness out there, just thinking about the future. So but I don't think it's going to replace screen printing. I think screen print's still going to be around. It's just what I'm looking at, right?
It's going to have its segment in the industry, globally. Screen printing's not going to go away. It never will go away. It's just, how many shops that we deal with on a daily basis that just have 1 or 2 autos.
Yeah.
They're not going to go full digital. They're going to stay. It fits their business model. So
Right.
we'll still be slinging ink for years and years to come, I'm sure.
And the safest arena would be industrial printing, which just doesn't get enough respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Chime in here, Ray. Industrial printing. So
you have no idea. With corrugated now, and being used in a lot of advertising on corrugated. It's not just brown anymore, and that's going inkjet, water-based inkjet, big time. I mean, massive investments there. You've got the new nano press from that's doing basically offset with inkjet. So they print on a blanket and then transfer, but they print with inkjet. So I mean, this is Landa's newest thing since Indigo, and I mean, it's just one thing after printing flooring. I mean, it's incredible. It's going everywhere now. When it makes sense, it's got to make sense in two ways. One, if you can save inventory, you don't have to print a whole bunch of stuff and store it because you need a run length that's economical. You don't have to do that. So you just make it when you need it. And the other thing is, the cost effectiveness. But the one that I found was most fascinating historically now is the ceramic tile business. It took 3 years to go from the analog to the digital conversion. The payback was 6 months on the investment. And virtually all ceramic tiles printed with inkjet now.
Yep.
So,
it
was amazing,
It's not really, my forte into digital, but next to my applications lab, we have our digital labs. And the one thing that just really blows me away when I saw it and we installed it are the Dimens printers that print, digital 3-dimensional.
Oh yeah.
And those are just, kind of stood there like a little kid looking at it going, holy crap, it's printing brick and it feels like brick.
Yep.
That technology is unbelievable.
Yeah, with the digital world we have now, the ability to manipulate files and all that, and direct a stream of drops, and you can print so many different materials now that it's just there's no end to it. I can't even keep track with what all's going on. There's so many different markets that are being impacted by digital, especially inkjet.
Well, even like the HP, the latex printers, the really large flatbeds we have, and they're running 6-panel doors through it. Printing the whole door, like you said, ceramic. It's amazing. Like our HP room, the experience room, the 70, 80 different items on the walls. From lunch boxes, the whole gamut. What you can print on them is, if it fits through, it'll print it. Basically.
Yep. It may not stick perfectly, but you got to worry about that. But
sure.
And then the heating and all that, you got to deal with. You got to be able to heat the substrate to a point and dry it. So that's another issue. And but there's the UV printers now, and they've got the gel UV that Canon has that basically prints and it solidifies, and then it's cured after. And that's very fast and very attractive, except it's, again, UV's safety-wise, before it's cured, can be problematic. So you got to be careful handling it.
So let's catch up with some comments here. So Ray says to call Dave Dennings about the laser. They have products off the menu that are stunning. Lance agrees with you, Mark. Techmar water-based adhesive is the best in his opinion. Great. Screen printer die. Awesome. Hurley is laughing at you, Richard. So whatever comment you made, there you go. Death to digital, says Lance. Chris says, I'm not worried. I'll be slinging ink till I'm dead. By the way, he does awesome high density prints, and is there any printer out there that prints in dimensions instead of just flat? Can you print dimensions?
They call it 2.5D. They call it. Yeah, where they put down a large volume of polymer, basically. Yeah, they do doors and floors with wood grain. I mean, with relief. They can do, there's machines that do that, especially in Europe. They're big in that.
Oh, great.
Yeah. You can do they call it 2.5D because it's not 3D, but it's piled up. Okay.
Yeah.
So that you can get a significant amount of relief.
Right. Ray says industrial screen print is ever growing, electronics, medical device, transportation, white goods. And Lance says great, but digital is not made for garments as of right now. Well, I don't know. There's plenty of people doing digital stuff with garments. So
I have to disagree. Yeah.
Yeah.
We love you, Lance, but no.
And then Hurley says laughing at the background on Richard's screens. Thanks, Richard.
A comment on the garments. Depending on the chemistry, dye sublimation, that's a given.
Yeah.
You can do that very, very well, either indirect or direct, transfer or direct. Now, there's a new company, it's a company called Alchemy in Great Britain that is promoting and demonstrating solid color dyeing of fabrics in order to not have the washing and pollution that normally occurs when you dye fabrics. And they're promoting this as 98% less water is used and there's no wastewater. So it's a digital technology. It's not putting a pattern, it's printing a solid.
And is that applicable to a non-polyester fabric, or you still got to use polyester?
Yeah, well, the pigments. If it's non-polyester, it would be a pigment material. They wouldn't use the other. Well, I'm not sure what all inks he's got. It's still being promoted big time, I think, to raise money, but it's been demonstrated pretty thoroughly at these textile trade shows. That this is an objective to help fix the second worst polluting manufacturing process behind paper, which is dyeing fabric. Mm-hmm. And it's evil stuff. I mean, the dyes in the waste stream is a big problem. So that's his objective. I mean, that's the stated objective for doing it this way. But it is green, real green, because you don't have any wash water steam.
And Dr. Work, what is the name of that process so we can pay attention to it?
Well, the company is Alchemy, ALCH EMIE. I think it's IE. Alchemy. It's in Great Britain. I've known the inventor for a long time. He's been in a whole bunch of different things in inkjet. He's been in the business forever. So
cool. So Lance has a comment here. So would anybody on this panel wear a digital printed T-shirt, put it back in your closet, and then wear it again? I don't know. I got a ton of DTG stuff. So is that what you're talking about? So if so, the answer is yes.
I have a ton of them. I do.
Chris says, I used to print on polymer floors by hand back in 2004, way before they had machines. Our good buddy Charlie's here. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning, Charlie.
Sublimation is a different story. And then the baseline process is solvent-free reactive vapor deposition.
Deposition, yeah.
Deposition.
Solvent-free. Huh.
So thanks, Ray. All right, well, cool. So good discussion here. So what do you think is going to be coming out next year that we really should be paying attention to in 2023?
DTF.
Direct to fabric?
Direct to film.
Direct to
film.
Transfer process, Ray.
Transfer. Yeah. Well, see, that term can be either one. So
sure.
Yes. Yeah. There's a big problem with it. And that's the powder.
Yep.
The glue.
Powder is deadly.
Yep.
Okay. So until somebody fixes that, you shouldn't get near it. Okay, no, very bad, very bad.
So you mean just because of it's very fine, like
Toxicity.
talcum powder, you like breathing it in? Is that what
It's not talcum powder. It's a polymer resin, and just look at the hazard stuff associated with it. It's not good, and it's very fine particle dust, and it's not good. So that process, it's coming. It's being used in China, but they don't care about people in China, as we know. It's very extensively being used in China for T-shirts. But I've looked at it pretty thoroughly, and it needs a better process so that you don't expose people to the dust. That's the dust bin where you shake dust on it,
right?
And then you fuse it. No, that's bad from a safety point of view.
So if somebody's using this now, because I know tons of people are, they should be using a respirator when they're around it.
100%. Yeah,
at least.
Yeah,
but that's bandage. You want a process that's not inherently hazardous, and it's inherently hazardous. It's like the old UV with the UV lamps versus LED. The UV lamps generate ozone. They generate all kinds of very bad free radicals that are damn dangerous. And if you don't ventilate properly, you're going to really hurt people. And then they don't shield from the UV light, and you burn your eyes and not know it. It's like looking at the sun. So there's all these safety issues that really, before people jump into something like DTF, you need to understand the hazards. And most of those systems are just sort of jury-rigged. So at this point.
Marshall, you told me about one of the DTF people that are inkjetting the adhesive. Or am I thinking about?
They were inkjetting the adhesive, and I think they had a big issue with the inkjet had clogging, and now they've switched to using
Rico.
powder.
Sorry,
Yeah.
It was Rico, which I saw at the Printing United trade show in Vegas.
Yeah, well, the whole idea is once you've got the color printed on the film and you transfer, you've got to seal it up, and the resin's the way, and melting basically. The powder's that's not going to be very inkjettable. That's the hard way. There's a number of people working on a process. I wouldn't go there right now. I looked at it for one of my clients as an offering, and I said, and the conclusion was that's too dangerous to sell. And right now, it should evolve because the result is great, but it's the process that's scary.
Well, I know a number of people have these in their shops right now using it. They're printing thousands of transfers a day.
Yep.
Using the powder.
Yep.
So.
Well, respirator for sure.
Yep. So where are we on our comments? So Best for T says, good morning. My virtual assistant's here. So everybody say hey to Lyra.
Hello, Lyra.
She's gonna be publishing this later, so good to see you. And she likes your background, Richard, because she thinks it's funny. Lance says, "Preach it, Ray." Chris says the powder sucks. Got to mask up every time I use it. Ray says the particles, like most near nanoparticles, will defeat the average N100 respirators.
Yep.
And then Charles says, after much discussion with Richard, I'm going to test out capillary film. Ulano has an Easy 50-30 films. Literature indicates Easy 50 is ideally designed for mesh count up to 200. Easy 30 is ideally designed for mesh counts 230 plus. 90% of our screens are either 200 or 230 mesh. Would we need both films, or would one film work for both? What do you think, Richard?
Gina was telling me that the phones don't work upstairs, so I've got to read this now. I wasn't listening.
Oh, okay. So you had a discussion with Charles, and he's talking about using
Right.
cat
So
films.
90% of our screens are the two. So you're overthinking it. I say this sweetly to you, my friend. You're overthinking it. So I would start with the 30 and see whether or not you like the deposit, and then you make another screen exactly like it. You can get free sample films from Yolano. Make sure they're fresh, because I was held back in my love of capillary film because I would get salesman samples and they wouldn't work, and I didn't believe in it until the right person, that would be Mr. Al Petsy, said, no, you're getting old film. And once I used real, fresh, good capillary film, it goes on like a dream.
Yep.
So if you wanted to do it on the same screen, you just take two smaller pieces, put a positive over it, to put the, butt to butt, put the two pieces of film on, dry it for 30 or 40 minutes, pull the film off, put a positive on it, develop it, and within 35 to 40 minutes after you put the film on, you could be printing a sample, and you'd get an exam sample in 1 hour. You would have the answer. So I say, embrace it, jump in. You can't fail. It'll be, oh, I need a thicker one. It's a golf club analogy that the stroke is the same. When you're golfing, it's always the same stroke. Your arm should always do it the same way. You choose the club. You say, oops, not far enough. Put another ball down, put another screen down, use a different thickness of film.
And we all appreciate our smart ass friends. Thank you, Ray. You can tell the film is fresh by tasting the corner.
It goes very, very good with Woodward Reserve.
Yeah.
So Don says, hi, guys. TGIF. Hey, Don. And then is there any potential safety issues using DTF transfers that are printing was outsourced, meaning they don't do the transfers, they're just using them?
Well, who's supplying the powder? That's the issue.
Well, so they're the DTF transfer is made by somebody else, and they're getting shipped in. They're just using the transfers and just heat pressing them on.
Yeah, they're fine there.
Yep, fine. It's already been melted. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And Ray says, everyone saw the wink. We did. Okay. And then Charles says, okay, I'm on GSG right now, placing my order. Appreciate you ordering from them. I have a customer, so say bye for today. Thanks, Cindy. See you. And Terry says, Jesse, it's not a fruit roll-up.
Well, I've used a fruit roll-up example for people that aren't getting it. It is very much like a fruit roll-up.
Yeah, and then Mark says, wood for reserve goes well with anything. By the way, if you want a really fantastic drink, pair wood for reserve with ginger beer, like a mixer, and it's really awesome. So that was a Mark Dre drink.
I like Angel's Envy myself.
Yeah, Angel's Envy. That's a good bourbon just to have by itself, right?
Well, it makes a wonderful old fashioned.
Yes, right. All right. Well, good. All right. So wrapping things up here. So Dr. Work, why don't you talk about maybe something you're excited about for next year? And then we'll have Mark and Richard do the same thing, and then we'll be out of time. So we'll start with you, Ray.
Excited about next year. Well, I think I've been promoting these products, this adhesive back fabric product line. We now have one that's made from, the fabric is polyester. It's made from recycled water bottles. So it's really green. It's the acrylic adhesive, and it's for various inkjet printing, solvent-based, UV, latex, or water-based. There's different versions. And there's a blockout version. And it's fabulous for walls and everything else. Floors, it's skid-proof. It's wonderful. So that's been my big effort as far as product development. As far as the industry, I think the two big ones are textile, roll to roll, and corrugated. Those are enormous, and they're growing, and there's an enormous amount of effort, especially on the corrugated, because it's got to go water-based. They won't go UV. Well, it's cost too. You know, UV inks cost a lot more than water-based inks, and so that's a big push in that area. And then on textiles, it's pigments for the most part. Pigments that have the hand, that have the washability, and they've made dramatic progress in that so far, and it's going to be very large for many reasons. But it's nice to be able to print on any kind of fabric, not just sublimate to polyester or have to use a chemical reaction on the natural fibers. So
are there product names that we should pay attention to with that?
Well, I already told you about your negative film thing with print positive. Then let's see the corrugated is there's a whole bunch of different companies that are attempting to do it, including the big boys, HP and Ken, all those guys. Not particularly one. The Reggiani is a big one for the textile roll to roll, and that's owned by Effie now. And they're all going nuts with textiles because that's an enormous opportunity for them. So that's why a big push on the textile side. But and then the solids. I think the alchemy and the solids is that will be a game changer if he can get that to work in a cost-effective way, productive, cost-effective way, which I think he can. I think the technology is there. It just hasn't. It's in development. But that one's probably the biggest impact in the world. Getting rid of washing dye out of the dyeing process of fabrics.
That would be great. That would be great. Well, thank you, Dr. Work. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Mark, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
Building out our new applications lab, and we have the new M&R Global Rival press coming into the lab, and the new updated version of the M&R Cobra, and then adding the Kiwo laser. So new toys for a new year, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on them.
Yeah. So you're just like this?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah. As soon as I go to the office, I go back to see if there's any crates that came in. So, but
that's great. That's great. And what about you, Richard?
I'm first a note of concern. I don't want people to get too lax about COVID. I know 4 people that have gotten COVID in the last week. And so I just want to remind you, it's winter now. We're going to be back inside, and It hasn't gone away. And, it's not surprising. So especially when you get mugged, you're afraid of muggers all the time. When you get hit by lightning, you're worried about lightning. So I know people that got COVID this week. So I don't think you should become lax. I'm looking forward very much to the factory that I'm building. It's actually a little farther away than it used to be, but it's 40 minutes away. But the M&R presses are stacked up. We can't put them in yet. The Saudi equipment is stacked up. I mean, I've got $600,000 worth of stuff that is just waiting for the Detroit Edison people to put in new power for the building that I have to build. So I'm really, it's a lot of fun to play with all that stuff.
That's
exciting. I didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
The number one thing that I'll be doing today is calling Richard Aram, who I met back in the mid 2000s when he worked for Spectra Corp.
Yep.
And
he's the man. He's into a bunch of other things. He's into DTF too.
So, I mean,
He's working on alternative ways to do DTF.
I met him at a couple of trade shows. That's the only
Mhm.
depth I have. We'll see if he remembers me. I do remember him.
Well, he's been around a long time, and he's at every trade show, and he's into all kinds of stuff. So, on the COVID thing, yeah, I went to Mickey. I went to see Mickey with my granddaughter and got COVID. I had been, vaccinated. So it was like a 3-day problem. But I don't normally get flus or anything. So, but I did get it. So, yeah, if you've got an underlying health problem, it's dangerous. It really is.
Mhm. I've had COVID 3 times.
Oh my goodness.
So, so it's one of these things that's around. So I totally agree. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and appreciate all the guests. And thank you, Richard, for stepping in today for Alan at last minute. We really appreciate you and the fact that we can rely on you to help us out. That means a world to us, and I know it means a lot to Alan. So
I'll be running the Shirt Lab open house next Tuesday.
that's right, because well, not next week, the week after, right? So yeah, but yeah, just because I'm traveling to a shop for a couple of days to work with them. So anyway, thanks everyone, and don't forget to sign up for that financial workshop with Mark Coudray next week. And that's just on Eventbrite, and it is the I'll share it real quick again. So that's this one, Shirt Lab Workshop, Managing by the Numbers, Understanding Financial Info. It's all about helping you read your P&L statements and really make good decisions about what you're doing with your money. And I think a lot of people out there, I was just talking with a shop today. They've been in business and they've never run a P&L statement ever. So I think this is one of the things that a lot of people need. And Mark is just the man to do it. So, anyway, so thanks everyone for watching, and we'll check you guys out next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.